3-0 on Nocturne. I know you mentioned kind of more their focus in terms of where they lean in the jungle, but they still play the Nocturne. It's still strong.
And this Xayah Rakan mid lane funnel, the new thing that we saw, SKT breakout that came from Challengers, is the only funnel-related strategy that will draw a ban. That's what they seem to feel. And then you see a Taliyah ban. Taliyah is also a big funnel champion because it allows her to go bot lane and push and start a kill lane. You see Zoe is available. Zoe will be locked in. No Nocturne to try to target it. See what the matchup choice is here from Chovy, or whether it'll just be a funnel strategy from Griffin.
The most obvious first pick here for Kingzone, just in the current meta, but for these two mid laners. PDD is ridiculous on this champion, 15 KDA, and Chovy has not died yet, and he's 4-0 on Zoe. So both of these guys, if you get a chance to take Zoe, you're gonna take her.
They see an Aurelia, which hasn't been a big pick in Korea, but will be drafted here. Could be mid lane against a Zoe, very common, but Viper has played it in the bot lane as well. So flex pick there from Griffin. This would be a power pick Mundo very early in the draft against the person who Khan said taught him Mundo. He said he picked it up from his good friend Sword, and we know all about the cheeky bants between the two top laners before this series started in the last interview a couple of days ago. They will just power pick Mundo. Only been a top lane pick so far this season.
You can see what Khan can do on the Mundo. He really doesn't care about turrets. That's the biggest thing.
16 turret shots in that one replay clip we counted.
And there was another one back towards the beginning where he tanked upwards of 20 inside the enemy's base. Of course, he was very far ahead, but that's Mundo for you.
When they see Sejuani, they don't choose to take something to try to target the Sejuani. They take a similarly weak ganking jungler in the early game, but more of a pathing jungler in the Trundle. That means Shen is open for the side of Griffin. The League of Legends was on full display as he had a monster performance last time out on that Shen. Probably going to be support Shen. Unsure where the Aurelia is going.
It's kind of turning into League of Legends for him as he's just like power picking the Shen really early on, whereas in other drafts that we've seen, doesn't get picked or bans in the first series that we saw.
Look at that Lehens sign right there. If you guys don't know, Lehens was famous for getting top rank 1 solo queue in Challenger in Korea on 2 champions. He's a Singed top lane main originally, and then Elise support before then. He is a very, very well-rounded player, but that is an amazing sign for the side of Griffin.
I was just thinking it must suck to be the girls afterwards that have their just regular, you know, text signs cheering for Prey.
2 bans put out by the side of Griffin. The Ashe and the Varus are not wanting to deal with some of Prey's engage options in bot. The Mundo taken as a power pick, but also because it does so well against Zoe and has been a big pick for Sword. Seeing what Griffin want to draft in the second round, maybe reveal where this Aurelia is going.
I mean, are you really going to leave the Ezreal for Prey? I mean, you're essentially handing it over to him. And they're going to take the Morgana. I mean, we saw what it can do in our first series of the night, but might be just an easy pick for Prey unless they have something else on the mind.
Could also be Morgana Shen as a bot lane for the side of Griffin, and then a late counter pick, something really creative into the Zoe pick. We'll have to wait and see. In terms of tier list, you definitely take the Lucian of what's left available. Varus and Ashe taken away. With the Ezreal up, you could say, oh, what about the Ezreal? But it seems like they're quite concerned about it being Morgana and just being outpushed. If the roam happens for Lehens, if he can get around the map on the Shen they can't punish, that could be a big thing. So actually going to go for the Lucian over the Ezreal, as teams are now getting creative about some of the top meta picks in Korea.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, it's not all about the numbers. The teams certainly have an idea about what's going on. Gorilla.
You know, he's not locking it in instantly because you might be like, but it's Rakan, it gives engage. However, does anyone remember how Xayah Rakan was hard countered by Kate Morgana? Getting some value out of the Morg is so easy against the Xayah that Rakan that we actually see the Braum switch over because they understand that the duo lane Morgana is very likely.
Well, Aatrox slips his way all the way to the bottom of the draft, and Griffin say, thank you very much, we will pick that one up. We'll be Sword up in the top lane, Aatrox versus the Mundo there. We do have Aurelia versus Zoe in the mid lane as well, and you were talking about it, Morgana Shen in the bottom lane will be the choice for Griffin.
Joining us for our second series with a missed Bang, having 2 victories on the Morgana bot lane. Don't have a lot of onus on you to do much. You max the W, the cooldown reduction from it means you shove lanes very well and it does decent damage in a team fight, and you also have a shield on a melee carry. One of the reasons that it was prophesized that we would never see melee carries in meta is the range beats melee, and the CC ruins the day of Melee Champions, a high AP value Black Shield is pretty sick on either Aurelio or Aatrox. We saw Faker pop off in similar scenario.
Well, this is the draft for game number 1. I hope you guys take a picture and you think about how it could have gone differently for each of these two teams, because it seals their fate for the game at hand. Going to be interested to see Peanut on the Trundle. He has 1 game win on that one. The Nidalee was open. Of course, Nocturne was banned, but he decides that in the current meta, on the current patch, Trundle is the better pick against Sejuani.
Drafts are very different here. It's another team fight draft coming through, like we saw SKT do a couple of times. Full commit, no siege. Really only about the team fight and objective control for Griffin. Kingzone much more balanced. They have the marksman, they have the range, and the sieging advantage with the Zoe as well. Mundo outscale. It's always possible, but he doesn't really have anyone to dive, so this comp doesn't really fall susceptible to Dr. Mundo's wily ways.
Yeah. He'll be a little bit corralled in terms of where exactly he can go or where he would be wants to go. I'm just excited for Lehens on Shen again, honestly. He's going to show us some crazy plays again, no doubt. Game number 1 is starting here. The countdown has started. Griffin versus Kingzone for game number 1. Griffin, they're still struggling on that fan cheer.
The coordination might not be there, but at least the voices were there, and that's what's really important.
I mean, they had 2 people that were so hyped that they wanted to lead the fan cheer. The girl won in the end, as is usually the case.
We have 2 people hyped to bring you this second series on what has been just a Super Tuesday to complement the Super Wednesday. Different type of Super. Super Wednesday is 3 best-of-3s tomorrow starting early. And this is just the quality of the matches being through the roof, so we have some excellent League of Legends tonight. No funnels, though, in 4 games, and I, for one, welcome our no-funnel overlords.
It's kind of just too strong to the point where everything and anything that can funnel and is viable gets banned out. It's like, this is permanent ban status. We saw Xayah and Taliyah banned out 3 times by KT, and you see it here as well out of Griffin and Kingzone together, taking 1 ban each.
See the Aftershock taken by Tarzan. I think maybe Fleet Footwork against kind of more tricky opponents than a Trundle that you're not really worried about getting in there and killing you. We saw Fleet Footwork earlier in competitive play, but just seeing the Aftershock here, and Aftershock interaction with the Trundle ultimate's a famous one where you can steal a lot of stats. Peanut's level 2. See if he actually wants to play a visit bot lane. It's level 1, remember, where both Morgana and Shen are very weak.
Oh, Viper steps up. There's going to be no black shields. And, well, he is actually going to commit to the flash, but that's going to be easy. First blood given over to Prey in the bottom lane.
You give Morgana level 2, things get much harder, but at just level 1, smart gank timing from Peanut. Stuff Viper in the bot lane. Peanut will also be able to pick up the Scuttle Crab because he has the reaction of his laners, so always Peanut and Kingzone win that level 1.
Peanut just putting on the sunglasses and saying deal with it here, as we've seen junglers do many different things. You know, Haru coming in with his Camille and ganking 2 lanes within the span of 30 seconds, but Peanut in the bottom lane ganks the Scuttle Crab too, and now he's going to take the second one.
Oh, every jungler knows the feeling. The double Scuttle and a successful gank pre-3 minutes. The game ended here. Peanut will be the easy MVP.
I thought you said the game ended here. I'm sure for some people, okay, maybe Tarzan or Viper, they might feel a little bit unhappy with the way that this game has started, but it's not over yet.
Well, the bot lane is a very different predicament, but Shen will be able to roam. We're going to see the level 1 gank, and it's the timing that means so much. There's just no counterplay to a gank like this. The moment the flash was used, kind of had to flash proactively the moment they saw anything happening. From there, it may still have gone down, so well done by Kingzone. Get the full zoom on Peanut.
Our observers getting excited today.
Uh-oh. KT fans.
I mean, they
our
already
SVP
lost.
no on that one.
It's already too late for KT on the matches tonight. But yeah, Peanut, I mean, a very simple path. You know, you can even try to make that work in solo queue. It's, if you have the right jungler for it, it's very obvious. You know, you have the bite and you have the pillar. For Trundle, he can easily go down there as long as it's a gankable lane. And Peanut just makes it look easy. And he hands the kill as well over to Prey.
When we talk about Mundo versus Aatrox, we kind of talk about the fact that Mundo, in terms of the 1v1, can get into a pretty comfortable spot around level 11 with a couple of giant spots items. Sending him behind, one of the best ways to answer that. This is the sort of game, though, we'll see if we can talk about theory, given that Tarzan's sticking around. Two coverage wards for Khan. Khan playing pretty defensive in this lane, all things considered. But here comes the gank.
He's going to be engaged upon by the Dark Flight, even if he knew the Sejuani was there. This is going to be a rough one. There it is, the flash on in, and they get the stun as well. Flash forward from Sword. And that will be the second kill of the game, given over to Sword.
Well held on to cooldowns. Khan has to eat a bit of humble pie as the first meal of the day, but there's still a lot of meals left, apparently. It's a 10-course meal, hopefully, between Kingzone and Griffin. I also think that this is one of the games where Aatrox outscales just because Mundo really doesn't have a teamfight role. For the side of Kingzone, there's no one to shut down. Can't run into Zoe or a marksman. It's a bit of a nebulous role for the Mundo in a teamfight, just kind of burning and doing AoE damage. So I think Aatrox will have a bit of a field day if he gets going. But the execution is calling. He's building for lane, trying to hold down Khan and make him accountable in a matchup that can be tricky for Mundo early.
It's certainly good for Sword. He gets his revenge, right? He'll be winning that top lane side, but an Infernal Drake and the First Blood onto Prey is also going to be quite nice for the side of Kingzone. Still going to be ahead on that gold factor. And the game should calm down from here. We'll see if they go for a repeat gank on the top side.
It was really, really patient coming through from Sejuani, and they needed to hit the first CC, and from there, Khan is dead. There's no way to outplay this because it's double flash. They already got the first bit of the stun going on, so well executed by Griffin, and Khan just leaves it with no flash, still susceptible to further ganks.
This is where I feel like the camera should be a little bit more often. We've been distracted by some other lanes, but guys, we have carry versus carry, BDD versus Chovy in the mid lane.
I know you were very frustrated that you got your Faker versus Chovy matchup 2 games in a row, and this young mechanical talent wasn't able to actually play any interactive champions. He was on Taric and Braum duty.
Hey, he played them really well.
You know, he did ult into wind walls quite a lot.
That's true. Well, his Taric was good. The Braum was okay. He had a Kai'Sa to help him out with the win there. Viper was popping off on that on the Kai'Sa. That really just shows the strength of the funnel in general.
And Kingzone not going for the Ezreal that clearly was left open for the reason to be outpushed by the Morgana. Actually is also advantage when it comes to itemization because Prey can go into Blade the Ruin King. Doesn't have to go into tier or start any stacking. He can go Blade Rush, which is what you want against mages because you can just out-sustain any sort of harass. And since it's a natural build path for him, he can keep building naturally. Feels good about the First Blood, obviously. And should be a pretty comfortable lane where you can see Gorilla's pretty easily able to just take some back timings, and now he just can lane with teleport and say, well, we're not worried about being bursted, and if I can turn around a gank with my unsealed spellbook teleport, and that's all I need to care about.
Yeah. I like the Ezreal in tandem with the Zoe and the Mundo. We see that those 3 champions together so often here in the LCK. It just offers you an immense amount of tankiness and team fight presence, but also a really nice siege and amount of poke in your composition. It's just a good 3 champions in general. Very high tier, but okay. It's no longer a League of Lashen, as he is going to be poked out of that lane. Doesn't die, though.
Painful laning phase against the Lucian, who is in a very nice item spot. Almost just culled to death at level 6. BDD, small, slender CS advantage, but Irelia just wants to get on top of one of Lucian or Zoe. Both of them would be fantastic and take them down the late game. And while that hasn't been a reliable recipe for success in Korea, it is what the kit is made for. If you're not going to play Galio, Irelia is another champion in mid lane who has an on-command damage reduction ability to not get bursted as hard by the Paddle Star. Also get line wave clear, maxing W seconds. So it's a very comfortable matchup for the Irelia, but this is all in on teamfight. This is, all right, let's have a high AP Morgana, and maybe now Irelia's and Aatrox's and other melee carries can actually prosper, and honestly, it's not a terrible read.
It's funny to watch Viper try to stop the back of Lucian. Just wanted to join him for dinner. Was denied by Braum. Says, this is my partner, not yours.
I guess the Tormented Soil was on cooldown. Otherwise, that should have been a pretty easy interrupt. Gorilla wants to get greedy and freeze this wave, such as being a bot laner. Even mid laners know this feel now. We saw Faker's Taric, freezing waves for Blossom's Yi, and SKT fans will hope never again.
Me too. You know, I'm not biased one way or the other, but I just don't want to see him on Taric again.
You can be biased against mid lane supports.
I'm biased against Taric for Faker. I'll say that. Because I don't think that should have happened, but, you know, stuff happens.
Hey.
That's all I'll say.
SKT's over their experimentation phase. They seem to know what's good. We're still learning. I mean, this is 8-12, first day of 8-12, no banner of command, and already this Morgana bot lane is clearly going to become a pretty regular thing. We're seeing a lot of weird Morgana bans a couple of days ago, and maybe this is now shedding some light on why that trend was enacted.
I think after today, a lot of teams are going to look at this and begin to write that down in their notebook. You know?
But then you ban the Morgana, and you can't be surprised when the funnel comes out from mid lane. So 3 bans, certainly not enough to counter all the new age strategies. But this is a bit more the intended, I think. The mage in the bot lane with a support, rather than necessarily the hyper farming of a mid laner with smite.
Yeah. The Lulu has totally disappeared. Got some nerfs to the shield timing and some of the items that she would build, so I suppose that's part of it as well.
It's actually a really big hit to her solo laning ability, because previously for 6 seconds, people didn't really want to take damage trades with you.
Yeah.
Now it being 2.5 seconds, it's a lot less lane supremacy in a lane like this, for example, the Lulu versus Aurelia that we've seen this season. So you can still run it in support, but then it's not a great support champion. So in the end, you just don't see a lot of that Lulu.
They catch Peanut here. They have Irelia to roam over first. This is going to be 4-on-2 for now, as the ultimate does land on a Peanut. He has that Ignite ticking. Can they take him out? Looking to turn it, though, onto Lahenz as he does get low. They take him out, but down goes the Trundle, and now Zoe finally coming on in is going to land that bubble, but that will be a triple kill in the end for Toby on the Irelia, who cleans it up.
Fantastic collapse from Griffin. It was 4v2 to start, and Prey flashes in just to try to stave something. Definitely not worth it. The old chat is going to be absent on the side of Kingzone, as Toby getting a triple kill is exactly what Kingzone did not need.
We've seen how Irelia has just not been showing up here in the LCK, but you give her a team fight like this, she is going to run away with this one.
You call it a team fight, but it starts off as an execution. It's 4v2 to begin. There's no Kai'Sa to fly in on the side of Kingzone. Peanut is just cornered and could have just died. They didn't need to engage the flash over the wall. But you see on the back end, BDD actually fails, it looks like, to get his flash over the wall. Was only seeing it in the corner of the screen. Has no impact in the team fight whatsoever. So honestly, Kingzone get first collapsed on and then have some team fight mishaps. And out of nowhere, it's almost Trinity first Merc Treads on the Aurelia at 11 minutes.
Well, we have a fed Irelia. I'm interested to see if they can roll this one into a victory for Irelia, who is desperately needing it nowadays. Certainly going to make that mid lane a lot more one-sided for her.
There'll be some nice numbers for Aurelia fans. Not the highest overall. Frey was able to do a lot, free hitting on the backside, but team effort from the side of Griffin, woefully out of position on the side of Kingzone.
And you know how that all started was actually Peanut roaming through the jungle super deep, tried to get a deep control ward, maybe a little bit greedy, and he got seen somewhere. They had some idea he was there because they were ready, and then eventually they spotted him and were able to collapse 4v2.
They didn't have their lanes in the right spot for it, and then Griffin turned with CC on everyone. Every champion on their team. There's no more marksmen doing big damage. There's CC from every one of these members, and one catch is certainly all they needed. From there, Zoe didn't have enough control over the Aurelia, and we already saw it play out a couple of times in front of our eyes. So that relieves a lot of pressure from Griffin, who had the level 1 kill go the way of Kingzone. And for Peanut, needs to think about his jungle position a little bit more closely.
Yeah, maybe he's used to Nocturne that has a bit more mobility, you know, the speed boost on the Q, and also the Nidalee that can just straight up jump over walls, but not rolling a champion like that. Has a small speed boost, but not quite the same. And with that win in the team fight, it looks like Griffin trying to roll this into an Infernal Drake. See Gorilla and Prey really the only ones around here, as it's duoed down by Chovy and Tarzan. And that will be picked up for Griffin.
That's all off the back of the triple kill. They finally got mid lane priority over a Zoe, which is very difficult to do as an Aurelia. Bot lane was able to stave off the early levels, and once you hit level 8, the Tormented Soil with a CDR is able to shove the wave pretty well. That meant there was no ability for Kingzone to collapse like we saw from Griffin. Nice little play from them, pick up the Drake. Already 2 Infernals. We're going to have a lot of Drakes this game. In fact, the 3rd Infernal spawn. Isn't it nice when the 1v2 clash has the hot fire Drakes as well?
Means a lot of damage, a lot of burst. Thinking about these 2 comps and which one it will help a little bit more. I mean, Chovy and Sword are going to be very happy with the Infernals, but so will BDD and Prey. So a couple of high damage dealers on both sides.
I think I definitely give it to Griffin because really they can only win by team fighting. So having both the priority to force Kingzone to come to a team fighting comp is good news, but having the extra damage when that's your only way to close the game is also big.
Aurelia is going to be hit down here, has that damage reduction. You see Gorilla does come in, but a fantastic stun. Catches both of them. This guy, he's on fire.
Hashtag no bias from
no.
Chovy's biggest fan.
Not at all.
Valdez. So far, so
man,
good.
It was a good stun.
Yeah, so far, so good for Griffin and for Chovy. A lot to like about this team. Where does Kingzone go for here? Because with a draft like this, they're a bit more balanced. They have siege options that aren't there for the side of Griffin, but if they give over more kills, maybe it doesn't matter.
Lehens is going to be hit by the stun, and while a culling to the face means that maybe he'll go down. Coming from behind, the pillar comes down. The black shield means that he won't be slowed, and a bubble comes in, but the TP from Sword is going to be there first. He bursts down the Lucian as Sword is going to get there before Khan does, and nowhere for Prey to go, really. Nice amount of damage coming out of BDD. Now Sword is going way too far forward. The ultimate comes out just for the disengage, but in the end, Griffin will win the fight.
But this was a fight where 9 members of the map were involved. Crucially for Griffin, they get a kill, and this is a fight where Chovy just took time to back and buy a Trinity Force. He wasn't even involved in any of this, and Lehens was out early. Just an outnumbered fight where Prey just opens up and says, "Hi, Lehens. I'm Blade the Ruin King Lucian. How are you doing?" And we thought it was going to be an easy kill. But first, the teleport. Lehens is able to escape. The turret dive is dissuaded by just Morgana. And the fact that with her Soul Shackle, she could turn around a turret dive very easily. And so it says, "Hello, I'm one rotationing you."
Yeah. It looked like Lehens was caught, and they were trying to catch him from the top side, but Prey actually attack moving onto some minions a couple of times, so he wasn't able to get in range, and he didn't have his dash anymore, which means that Lehens got away. Couldn't even trade the kill, and without his dash, it was just easy pickings for the Aatrox.
Sword is hitting a very nice Iden time. He went for the early Executioner's Calling, and now is already on the way to the Rage Blade. Probably happy to take trades against the Mundo very aggressively. We already mentioned that, probably a preview of future team fights, someone has to deal with Black Shield on one of Aurelia and Aatrox, and both of them can dive in and mess up the members of Kingzone.
Oh, Khan. He doesn't know they're here. He's trying to bait him in. He's going to miss the Dark Flight, and this is Mundo, but with that Executioner's Calling, let's see if they can knock him down. The ult is procced here for Sword. He does have a stopwatch. Should be easy pickings as Khan, nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, and a 3rd kill to Sword.
Even in lanes, Kingzone are playing pretty woeful. This is really bad Mundo play from Khan in terms of just using his flash. I think you just accept your death. You're not getting away there. The stopwatch is wasted as well. And in that time, they don't do anything. It's not like this is happening as a Baron is being taken or bot lane is being pushed. They're going to lose an objective from this play.
Yeah.
If you talk big, you either look good or you look terrible. And Sword is now 3-0-0, soon to have a Rage Blade, and Mundo can't enter that lane. And we've already outlined through the champion select that given that Griffin are so able to be malleable on their champion pools, they don't choose a marksman, they don't choose any sort of siege mage, and Mundo's role in team fights is pretty undefined.
Yeah, you mentioned the 3-0 Aatrox. We already have a 3-0 Irelia in the mid lane. And first blood turret goes to Sword for just, a completed Rage Blade, probably, when he decides to go home. And they get the Rift Herald. So Griffin beginning to run away with this one. Kingzone definitely are going to have to look themselves in the mirror if they lose this game.
Yeah, compared to, say, Game 2, which was a pretty similar draft, we think of Game 2 of our first series of the Telecom War, where Kingzone had the siege advantage, they had a split push advantage because the enemy Mundo was far behind, and all SKT could do was teamfight, and granted, they teamfighted fantastically, but that was all SKT's comp could do. You can say the same thing about Griffin. Oh, all they can do is teamfight, but they can also split push because their Aatrox is so big, and they actually have map control because so far they're winning the game.
Oh, looking for another play here in the bottom lane. Prey and Gorilla really just want to kill one of these guys, and it looks like both of them will get away.
They really want to crack stack a turret and rotate around. And speaking of rotations, Speedy, he's all alone.
He's all alone. He does have the Turbo Bubble to land on the Tarzan, and here's Khan from the top side. The burst damage coming out of Zoe. He's gonna miss the stun this time, will Toby, and he doesn't have anywhere to run. He's gonna stick around with the damage reduction. And he actually baits a lot of that damage onto him. Here comes BDD looking for Tarzan, but he can't get him. And look at the top lane. Sword just pushing this one down as well.
Griffin problem solved themselves out of a really big problem. Meanwhile, Sword is just wrecking this inner turret. Griffin is making Kingzone look silly. They're having a day out on the Rift, and it's supposed to be our champions versus a contenders team, a challengers team, if you will. It doesn't look like that.
This is certainly looking one-sided. At least Kingzone, with the help of the Mundo that comes in and is trying to help get a kill, but cannot. They kill a third Infernal Drake, the second one for their team, but they've already lost so much in the game.
This game is being played around Kingzone, and every single time we've seen multiple champions hit the Rift outside of level 2 gank from Peanut. Griffin have been smarter about the engage, about the angle, about how to play the map. They seem to be play calling on the fly cleaner than Kingzone. Kingzone already a bit of desperation, some gank brush happening from the Mundo, who looks at Sword and he's like, hey guys, I can't enter lane against that.
No.
Saw this a lot in Meta's past where Rumble's like, this this side lane carry, I can't enter lane, I have to TP in. Mundo cannot deal and will never be able to outstrip the damage that Sword is building. Sword can continue to build damage, or Asterix, for example, which was adjusted but still viable on this patch, and Mundo, he's never going to have enough Giant Spell to deal with this.
That's just a ridiculous build right now for Sword. He's just about happy with what he has right now, but with the extra executioners calling against the Mundo, you're exactly right. Khan just doesn't want to be anywhere near that guy, but may have to just bleed down in the bottom side as he gets pushed in on the turrets. I'm curious to see what Kingzone can really do to come out of this. Perhaps some trouble bubbles from Zoe or something, but it's not looking good.
The best I can imagine, realistically, is baiting a TP out of Sword and then sending 2 people to just hold him, because you can't actually... I think if you name any 2 champions from Kingzone in a perfect fight for them, with no misplay from Sword, I think they lose. So the 1v1 is... Is he? I couldn't tell. Well, just walks up. The Bloodthirst and the Rage Blade is a very nice duo, but yeah, I don't think any 2 champions beats Sword at this present point. The item timing is too insane, and all Mundo can do is slowly watch his turret disappear.
Well, Kingzone, they're not one to give up. Prey will eat a binding as he moves forward. Piper on top of his mechanics. They're looking to counter-engage here. Aatrox coming up from the top side. They throw out an ultimate. Nice dodge. Oh, where'd he go? There it is, the Paddle Star in the face from BDD. He finally finds a target he can kill.
Double Infernal. Zoe still does damage, confirmed. They continue to walk up, but this will just draw Sword, so it doesn't necessarily grant them a turret instantly. The Hens can come back into the fight with Stand United in 20 seconds. But you take your wins where you can get them, and that Paddle Star was the definition of a win.
Got to see the replay of that one. He just disappeared off the map.
That wouldn't have been much overkill. That would have been very, very close here in terms of damage. Let's watch the replay. Don't see Lahen's item. I assume he has some form. He just has health. Okay, he's just sitting on Kindle Gems. So let's watch how much damage that she takes after the culling comes through. So he's sitting on over 1,000 health. Holy crap, it's 1,000 damage.
It's the culling and the Paddle Star auto and the Braum Q. So everything like kind of layers on each other, and Zoe gets the end kill, but it was just a ton of burst damage at once, all landing on one target.
Not often does 1,000 damage happen instantly.
It happened there. Might be the saving grace here of Kingzone. They're going to need a lot more kills like that to get back into this one.
All right, well, that happened, and from there, Kingzone get a bit more map control, but don't let that bait you into thinking that Griffin are going to be too effective. They can hit the Rift again. They still have Sword on an extra item timing. He's going to go back and buy something. He's been sitting on this for about 3 minutes. 2 items on Chovy as well. Now, there is no additive advantage of Sterix Trinity Force on patch 8.12, as not a base AD amplification. It's just bonus AD, and really all you need to know from home is that no longer does it make your Trinity Force damage bigger. it still gives you more damage, but because it's not on the Trinity Force, you don't abuse the Trinity Force proc. And that was the duo always, Trinity Force into Sterix for really getting a souped-up Trinity Force.
Yeah. And speaking about item builds, you look at the Zoe. If you guys remember Zoe the last time that we had in the last series, just went straight into that was Yukao, actually, up against Faker's Yasuo. Went straight into Azonia, so was really denied himself a lot of damage. But you notice that the Seeker's Arm Guard picked up by BDD, but then goes straight into Luden's and the Blasting Wand. So has a lot more upfront damage earlier on in the game. Loses some survivability, but again, he hasn't died, so probably a better choice.
Watching Sword, we know that he can run at Mundo and force him to blow his ultimate, but what I'm admiring is that they don't have the vision on the bot side for him to darkfight in, so he gives up minions to Mundo that other people would try to contest. So he's trying to be respectful on the bottom side. Griffin, as a team, clearly communicating, let's transfer all our advantages top side, and then use the teleport from there. So far, Griffin is trying to find any sort of supremacy around the Baron and then start the question marks in the heads of Kingzone.
Kingzone sticking around in this one. Khan, he still is the Mundo. He's nearing level 16. We talk about how ridiculous his ultimate can be at level 16. And the real question is, will he be eventually able to deal with Sword and all of his damage? Looking for an engage here is Chovy. Doesn't want to use it onto Gorilla. Gorilla forced to flash out of this one. Nice ultimate to get himself out of dodge. Will there be a counter engage onto Tarzan? He's forced to flash away so that he does not get locked on, but the stun will come out of Brawl. We have a one-on-one on the bottom side too. Sword just going to town onto this Mundo, but he gets away even before level 16, and nothing else happened in the mid lane.
Gorilla played the Braum just about perfect in the disengage there. Escaped from everything. Very nicely played for him. The 1v1 can't be fully won by Sword, and Khan can disengage and Warmogs. It's actually on a higher health value as mid lane.
BDD is trying his hardest to carry with the Zoe. Here's Chovy, though, who's going to ult in, gets into that back line, and see you later, Prey. He's going to be caught out here. Here's Shen coming in on top of Tarzan. The flash forward with the binding, and Viper gets a third member. Peanut as well, they'll be going down. And Griffin find a way to get 3 members for free.
Griffin's team fight execution has always been their calling card through their 21-0. Excellently was the trigger pulled there on the team fight, the Shen ultimate in just to confirm the further kills, and BDD may have flashed, but that just meant the Peanut was going to go down. Baron to Griffin.
These guys, they see the blood in the water and they go for it. They execute so perfectly, just getting into that back line right onto Prey. It's like he didn't even know it was coming. Let's see how this went out again.
You wondered, with the Aatrox being DPS'd out, was this going to be advantage Kingzone's the mid lane turret? Chovy says no, dives in, disarm onto the Lucian. Excellent taunt flash into the W as well, so there's not even any turnaround damage from the Lucian. Ults in further, couldn't have been any cleaner from Griffin. Wipe your shoes with that, you got some clean shoes. Beautiful stuff.
I'm getting chills, man. We talk about how Viper, you know, fantastic AD carry, but even Spo called it. He's like, he can play anything. The binding went past the Braum, skirted right by the Unbreakable, hit Lucian in the front. He pops his QSS, can't get out of anything that Irelia throws at them, and together as a team, they force Lucian to have 89 damage.
Because he gets taunted, and then there's the dodge field, so he doesn't even do damage to the taunted target. You can't even do damage to Shen. Makes him look awful, of course, but look at the shared numbers on the side of Griffin, and this is evolving into an amazing story, Valdez. The 5-0 start was already impressive, but Griffin actually made their name in promotions off trash talking. Their few pre-match words were, hey, you know, we're just going to win straight up. They didn't give any sort of Korean pleasantries. They went straight for the juggler and said, we're going to win, and they did. And from there, the word before promotions was, well, Griffin's not scrimming for promotions, they're scrimming for worlds. And that's the sort of big talk that can put you egg on your face so easily. So many other teams have wilted with those sort of expectations, not even made it to the LCK, let alone anything more. But living up to the big words with solid play and with 5 members standing up at any given time. This has not been just the Viper show or just the Chovy show. Everyone has stood up at different times. They are a formidable team, and wherever this series goes, they did not get smashed by Kingzone on the day.
Yeah, well, part of me feels like Griffin isn't really the team to have a game 1 like this and then wilt or get overconfident in game 2 either. If anything, game 2 should be Kingzone rising to the challenge, and game 2 should be the real highlight, right? Because Kingzone didn't have the best early game. They gave a bunch of kills, they got Chovy 3-0, and now they're struggling from behind. It's a team from behind. You know, Griffin's playing really well, not to take anything away from them. But I'm very curious to see how game 2 will go and to see if Kingzone can really stand up to this team that's getting out of control.
And Kingzone made one grave error, specifically the Trundle going in, getting caught, getting collapsed upon. The triple kill is something you can't excuse with their play. I think everything else was pretty fine by them. It was just Griffin outplaying them. So I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to this game or even this series being competitive. It could happen, but further, we've kept saying, we've kept having caveats.
Well, looking for another engage. The Aurelia ultimate does come down here. Sword from behind. There's the Dark Light into the kill. And Chovy now getting near Legendary. He's going to be able to pick up another kill with the help of Sword. And this is just Griffin styling now on top of Kingzone. They pick up 2 kills underneath nearly 2 turrets.
This is what happens when you have a gold lead and you actually initiate on it. You try to make plays happen, as Chovy does have the Black Shield and can disengage. A lot of teams with a big lead and a poor siege comp will just push waves and say, well, we'll try and find a Baron later. Griffin dive at the right time, move across between the lanes. They're trying to absolutely pile on the pressure onto Kingzone. They didn't have to dive here, but they read their strength and they made the right read. See them coming in, sword from the flank, beautifully done. They take down the closest member. This allows Aurelia to dive in. Beautifully done by Griffin.
Dodge shield is perfect too. Right after they engage, all of that upfront damage from the Lucian is just totally erased by the perfect Shen play. The team is just popping off in team fights. I love the way they team fight. They look so confident when they do it. It's a lot easier from ahead, but they've done it from behind too, Papa.
And I talked to LCK pros at the end of spring season, even the start of this season, and I said, what's your expectations on Griffin? Because we've been hyped for challenger teams and never even made it to the LCK. This one came in 16-0. What do you guys think? And everyone said, man, Griffin is so good. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Are they going to be top 5? Are they going to be, where are they going to be? And I kept hearing, oh, 8th or 9th. And I'm like, okay, but you said they're really good. Why are they in relegations? And the word was, yes, they're very good, but this is the LCK. They're coming into the LCK. They're all rookies. They don't have a single player with top 5 experience. You know, we just can't rate them there. They've rewritten that script. They are clearly better than bottom 2. And while they may fall away, if they get a 6th match win against Kingzone, not even just talking about who they're beating, they'd have more match wins than the team they replaced, Kongdu Monster, managed to pick up in 2 seasons. Isn't it insane that this team can come out of nowhere with no experience and many names no one had heard of and be this good?
This hype is all hell as these guys look unstoppable here in game number 1. They're ahead 9,000 gold at this point. They haven't been able to push in the inner mid and bottom lane turrets just yet. They get the engages, they've gotten the kills, but at least Kingzone has been able to hold on after all that. We do have the Baron spawning in about 1.5 minutes, so that will be an obvious objective for them to go for, but
if they funnel into either this Aatrox or Aurelia with the Black Shield on her, it's going to be a big problem. They both have just the most items. Frozen Mallet on the Aatrox, going on to 4th item onto Chovy.
GA on Chovy with the BF sword in his inventory. And look at him, he's trying to come from the left side. You look at that.
They're trying for a double flank, which means they could be collapsed on, so they adjust their setup, they move away. No harm, no foul yet for Griffin.
Griffin certainly just saying, we are so much stronger than you that, well, we might as well push in. Sword, Peanut's trying to go against him, but Sword says, nuh-uh, I'm going to go onto you, and the TP coming in, and now it's going to land onto the Mundo, and down he does go. Baited into that fight by Sword, and he says, no, I'm going to take you out.
Let me introduce you to free farmed Aatrox. He's a pretty big guy. He just walks up and takes on any comers. Easy, easy kill. No escape for those two. And now there's no Mundo. 47 seconds, 40 seconds ticking up. This is where Griffin will want to break the base.
Yeah, they're able to take the inner turret in the bottom side. We'll be looking for it in the mid lane too, trying to get that damage into the heads, and he kills him.
Man, Electrocute's a hell of a drug. It actually got the kill.
BDD's not done with this one yet. He says Zoe's a pretty strong champion, but they're engaging now onto Chovy, who says hello. Viper going to be able to help pick up that kill, and they get the double onto Gorilla, and the rest of them baited in and killed as the triple kill goes over to Chovy, who is now 9-0.
This is what happens when you draft two bruisers who both crush lane. The Morgana has the easiest job ever. Viper's no longer. It's the opposite of Smite Kai'Sa. It's I'm Morg, I press E. Good times ahead.
Yeah.
They get the kills. They turn on to the second Baron of the game. And Kingzone DragonX already going to be preparing for game number 2.
I said it before, certainly after a game like this, where just a couple of mistakes, one or two, get you behind. It still feels embarrassing, you know. Kingzone have to go back to the drawing board. They're the LCK champions, and they're going up against a team that was just in Challengers, and they're getting crushed in game 2. It is not close.
They're the reigning two-time defending LCK champions with players everyone knows, with players you need to know, as we see Electrocute does 450 damage. Pretty cool. All right.
With the help of the W.
But from there, you know, what do we mention about how strong the members are of Griffin? This is with the Black Shield actually being used too early, and he just says, well, I'm going in. And from there is really no counterplay.
Viper sprinting forward, too. He's like, I don't care if I die. I just need to get the stun down. He's doing his job. He's really good at League, as are the rest of them, it appears.
Haven't had a story like this in a long time. People will say Origin. Origin had players with plenty of LCS experience. These players have none of that. So for them to have developed independently so well, and should be worth noting that LCK teams were scrimming Griffin about halfway through spring season when they realized how good they were. So that actually has already happened. But for them to largely have been able to do this without the level of opposition you normally need to develop, usually the story is, well, how good can a team be if their opponents aren't that good? Well, Griffin might have to answer that question in a different way.
They have the Baron. They're looking to push into the mid lane. At some point, it kind of feels like they're playing with their food, right? They don't have the best sieging comp, which we always talk about, so it takes a little bit longer to actually end the game, but they'll do it through sheer force as they push 3 lanes in, 3 in the mid lane, 1 at the top, 1 at the bot.
If they see an Unbreakable, they're diving too.
They'll just wait for any moment, any excuse, really, to go on in. And I'm already getting the tweets. I made the tweet, the bet saying if Griffin win, I'll paint it on my face for the next time I cast them. It's only game 1, guys. There's still a chance that Kingzone can come back, but I do have to admit, this is pretty convincing in game 1 at least.
I'm all about the face art, Valdez. Permanent, right? Not temporary.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Griffin looking for their moment.
Okay, well, they found it. They hit an ultimate onto someone, and that should be enough to take him out. The Peanut is going to stick around for a bit, but it's not going to be long enough, as the rest of the team is just going to disappear. Will they even go for the Mundo? They might just let him go and say, hey, you can stay alive, but it just doesn't matter, buddy. As 4 members go down, Mundo stays alive, and Griffin is going to crush space here in game number 1 against Kingzone. They're going to take out the last 2 turrets and see if they do a little dance. They certainly deserve it. A little bit of stutter stepping there from Sword, but there you have it. Game number 1, super excitedly by Griffin.
And for Griffin, we're running out of ways to caveat. It was the caveat at the start of the season. Oh, it was 16-0 in Challenger. First 5 matches, SKT's not in form. These are not the top teams. Well, they're only beating easy teams. Now they're fighting Kingzone, and Kingzone looked like a pretty easy team for Griffin in game number 1. They had better plays. They read the map better. The micro outplays were there. Their draft was a difficult one to execute, and they made it look easy. And all Griffin can do is beat all contenders and shut up all the haters and all the people that are waiting for them to fall, because at least